Well, the British government has been accused of failing to regulate arms sales to Israel, with export licences worth £42 million granted to British firms since 2010. Earlier, I asked International Development Minister Lynne Featherstone about this, but I started by asking her about the new money which the government's pledged in aid to Gaza.
Because we need to save lives, and we need to save lives urgently. And this £3 million of aid that we've announced today, which is activating the Rapid Response Facility, is something that we put in action when the call comes, and it's come from the agencies, and it's pre-arranged, pre-approved agencies who actually can deliver, we know can deliver on the ground in Gaza to the people who are in need and who are suffering.
Nick Clegg has said that the Israeli bombardment appears to be disproportionate. Do you agree with that?
Nick has said that it appears disproportionate, and of course, if you look at it, of course it appears disproportionate, but perhaps if Israel didn't have its Iron Dome, it would look disproportionate the other way.
And that's the reality as it stands.
The reality as it stands, obviously, and we call on Israel to exercise restraint, to recognise the civilian damage and death that are happening, but we also call on Hamas to not hide its rockets within its civilian population.
But arguably Nick Clegg's intervention has been much more strongly worded than anything you've heard from David Cameron and Philip Hammond, and that's a problem, isn't it?
I don't think that's a problem. I think everyone is on the same side, and everyone is on the side of peace here. And if we word it differently, if some say it appears disproportionate and others say different things, that is not the issue. The issue now is for all sides to call for an urgent, immediate and unconditional ceasefire to deliver for the people on the ground, because it is the people who are suffering, and right now it is the people in Gaza who are suffering the most.
So you think the policy and the language used by David Cameron and Philip Hammond is sufficient?
I think it is diplomatic. I think that is the way forward. I do not think you will advance the cause of peace if you simply look to pick holes in language all of the time. And what Philip Hammond and the Prime Minister say is about the diplomatic need to observe international humanitarian law as a priority, to call for an urgent ceasefire and all of those. And if myself and Nick Clegg say that this appears disproportionate...
But that is the difference, isn't it? Philip Hammond has repeatedly refused to say, when asked, whether it's disproportionate or not. So that is the difference between what Nick Clegg is saying, what you're saying, and what Philip Hammond and David Cameron are saying.
I think we're dancing on the head of a pin here. I think appears to be disproportionate is also not saying it is. It appears to be disproportionate.
Nick Clegg is saying nothing really of any importance.
He is saying it of importance to begin to introduce the idea that in the end, all of this toing and froing, what Nick is trying to do is to stop people in their tracks, to say this is time that we all step back and call for peace between both countries.
Are you confident that arms exports from Britain granted by Vince Cable have not actually meant that arms are being sold to Israel and used to kill innocent civilians?
Well, that is very much being looked at right as we speak now, and each of the individual weapons export licenses is being reviewed individually, and obviously we'll have those results very soon, and any that are found to be in breach of international regulations will be stopped. But
is that a worry?
Well, I think it's something that we have to look at. We have to make sure that we are absolutely in the clear about who we're selling arms to and for what purpose.